This is Bruce Friedman of Adult Site Broker, and welcome to Adult Site Broker Talk, where each week we interview one of the movers and shakers of the adult industry, and we give you a tip on buying and selling websites. This week we'll be speaking with Alison Boden, Executive Director of the Free Speech Coalition, in part 2 of our interview. Adult Site Broker is proud to announce the launch of our new website, Adult Site Broker 3.0, at adultsitebroker.com. The look and feel of the new site is nice and up to date and easier to navigate. The new site also has links to our affiliate program, ASB Cash, and our new blog. Speaking of ASB Cash, we've doubled our affiliate payouts. Now when you refer sellers or buyers to us at Adult Site Broker, you're going to receive 20% of our broker commission on any and all sales that result from that referral for life. You can either place a link to us on your site or refer buyers and sellers through an email introduction. ASB Cash is the first affiliate program for an adult website brokerage. Check out asbcash.com for more details and to sign up. Now let's feature our property of the week that's for sale at Adult Site Broker. We're proud to offer for sale a review site network which has been growing at a good rate for years. It features one of the largest industry directories in the world. It has over 900 pages and has been gaining great traction with Google with lots of room to grow. It already gets a huge amount of organic traffic, more than other review directories with more content. It's ranking well for all the main keywords. The network is making $50,000 profit most months with lots of room to grow. The best month, the network made over $68,000 in profit. Profit for the year of 2022 was $550,000. The network has some of the best writers in the industry. There are also on-call developers and a full-time virtual assistant who knows every function of the site. The owner would be willing to give the new owner an outline of what could be done to further expand the business in the future. Only $2.12 million. Now time for this week's interview. My guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk is Alison Boden of Free Speech Coalition. Alison, thanks for being with us today on Adult Site Broker Talk.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Alison is a veteran adult entertainment industry exec, that's a mouthful, who served on the FSC's board of directors for over 3 years, including as its president, before taking on the role of executive director. Since starting her adult industry career in 2003, Alison has held a wide variety of marketing, technology, and leadership positions at companies like Adult Empire, Gamelink, Videobox, and Kink.com, where she was CEO. She also serves Pineapple Support as its board president. When do you sleep? Alison holds a bachelor's degree in sociology with a concentration in women's studies from the University of Pittsburgh. You can follow her on social media at Alison Boden. That's Alison with an L. She enjoys hiking, drinking wine, diving, and listening to podcasts. No doubt a steady diet of Adult Site Broker Talk. The Free Speech Coalition's mission is to protect the rights and freedoms of both the workers and businesses in the adult industry. Their organization functions as a resource, a leader, and a tool for the communities that they serve. They take pride in fighting to alleviate the social stigma, misinformation, and discriminatory policies that affect those who work in the adult industry. For more than 25 years, wow, they've been fighting and winning impossible battles from the Supreme Court to the ballot box and back again. I saw you at AVN and you were having meetings with various platforms. You were moving so fast it wasn't funny. You didn't even hardly get a chance to say hi. What do you see as the biggest issues facing the industry?
I think censorship in general has been a huge and building issue, right? I think these things are all kind of connected, where the stigma of being in the adult industry is hurting us with getting bank accounts. It's hurting us because legislatures feel the need to say that we're a public health problem.
Yeah.
And they don't recognize how much the adult industry actually does extremely well. I've been asked so many times, well, is there any checking of IDs of the people who are performing? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
how do you know so little that you don't
Well,
even realize?
here's the thing about politicians. They know so little. Have you ever heard them talk about technology? I'm sure you have. And when they've done their hearings on technology and they've got somebody on from Google or Apple, some of the questions they ask,
Oh, it's painful.
it's insane. They don't know
It's so
anything.
crazy.
They know how to work
And
their
that's what
phone.
we
That's about it.
exactly. And I guess I shouldn't have been shocked, but when we went to DC in December to lobby, on
Hmm.
banking discrimination,
Right.
it was very much just actually explaining the problem because no one in Capitol Hill is even they don't understand the basics. So it's just a
Right.
lot of education.
Sure.
And shockingly, they've been very open to hearing
Really?
what our industry is going through. And oh
Hmm.
yeah, when you bring a performer like Allie Eve Knox
Hmm.
in, and she tells her personal story about
Hmm.
losing over 30 accounts, not being able to be on her own mortgage, and what that did to her.
Hmm.
These people, they understand, like, oh wow, this is happening to individuals, real human
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Yes. Wow. Was it with Democrats and Republicans?
Believe it or not, yes, we
Wow.
met with both sides, and of
Good.
course, the interests are slightly different. One's more focused on
Hello.
freedom to be a business or to conduct your affairs. The other one is more focused on, the fact that people who are already having struggles. Our industry is chock full of
Hmm.
GLBTQ people of color, other people who are marginalized.
Sure.
Now they're being further marginalized. But
By the
frankly,
laws.
in the
Yeah.
end, yeah, they were both actually like, oh wow, that's not fair.
Jeez. That's wonderful news. That was going to be my next question, but that is just wonderful news that they at least were open. Here's the problem I see. To get any politician, even most Democrats, because I know we have some Democrats that are willing to stand up for us, but unfortunately, from what I've seen, they're very few. The problem is to get politicians to come out as in favor of anything that is perceived to help the adult industry seems to be like pulling teeth.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that it's like a strategy that they're going to pursue, kind of coming out and saying they're supporting big porn. However,
Yeah.
I think that honestly, the big strides toward embracing sex worker rights we've made in the United States in the last few years are actually what has opened their eyes
Really?
and let them kind of listen to this. Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Because, in the last few years are the first time that people are actually, the presidential candidates in 2020 actually had to answer where they stand on sex work decriminalization.
Oh,
Sex work is not,
from your mouth to God's ears.
and I think that finally it is not as stigmatized as it was, and
Hmm.
obviously it's a little easier to have that conversation on the D side, but
Yeah.
you know knowing that you can walk in and say, look, you have, with the advent of OnlyFans and other platforms, especially during the pandemic,
Right.
your district probably has 5 to 10,000 active sex workers, legal, working in it right now.
Those are voters.
These are your constituents. Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So, it's a bit more compelling, and I think that people are a little more open to listening than they used to be, which isn't to say that it's not going to be difficult,
Right.
obviously, or it's not
Right.
going to take a while, but it's encouraging. It's
Yeah.
encouraging.
Absolutely. So you talked about age verification. That's obviously happening in Europe as well. In fact, it started to happen in Europe first. The UK's been kicking it around for what seems like decades. How is the FSC approaching this?
Well, so as an industry, our main concern, we never want minors on our websites.
Amen.
Like, it's just it's not what we want. It's many of us
Right.
are parents and we don't want that. Or we're just normal
Exactly.
humans who don't necessarily want any children looking at porn. And if
Right.
you're really, looking at the nuts and bolts of it, they don't have money. We don't want them. We don't. If there were
That's
an
very
easy
true.
way,
I've never heard it
right?
put that way. That's why I laughed, but that's very true.
They're not people that we want on our websites, but we also don't want to make it difficult for adults to access the material that they deserve to be able
Right.
to see.
Or
And
to have to put
so,
their private information.
and that's the scary thing,
Hmm.
look, given how many data breaches and
Yeah.
other invasions of privacy that we've seen in the last few years,
Hmm.
it's not wise to have people have to put in their photo ID from the government,
Yeah.
or do a face scan
Oh,
that some
geez.
company says is getting deleted, but what I don't know that. I think
Hmm.
that our main concern is limiting access to minors in a way that doesn't destroy everyone's business,
Right.
right? Like, let's say, site number one institutes AVS tomorrow. All
Hmm.
their traffic is just going to site number two that isn't
Right.
complying.
Right.
So
Right.
making sure that it is equitable, that, you know, you can still do business while doing right by, minors. Frankly,
Hmm.
parents need to be involved with this. I don't understand why almost none of them are using device filters, parental controls, all of the tools that they have at their disposal to
Because
keep
they're
their kids off
lazy.
our websites. Well, right. Let's trust the pornographers to
Yeah.
keep my kids from looking at their
Hmm.
websites instead of me doing my
Hmm.
job.
Right. Exactly. You talked about breaches. The Ashley Madison one should scare everyone because a lot of information came out in the public domain that embarrassed a lot of people.
And I'm thinking about the destruction that can do to people's lives. I mean,
Yes.
so let's talk about my old employer. If kink.com had a giant data breach
Ooh.
and then somebody goes into a divorce and they found that their ex-spouse is in the kink.com list,
Hmm.
do you think they're not going to try to use that in a custody battle?
Oh, hell yes.
Absolutely, they will.
Yeah.
So it's really dangerous for everyone for these legislators to come up with these half-baked ideas
Hmm.
and think that, well, it's for the children. Well, actually, I think it's probably harming everyone.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, you talk about age verification. Let me give you my take on it and you tell me what you think. I think a long time ago, the industry should have gotten together. I, I say that tongue in cheek to a degree because the industry doesn't get together on anything, as you well know, and said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we are going to establish an age verification standard for the industry and come up with something. There would have been a lot of companies would have jumped on board to be providers. We would have already had it. And then governments really would have nothing to say because we're already verifying age. The problem now is we've got a third of the states in the US or something close to that proposing that, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of countries.
Yeah, I mean, I think the proliferation of free content hurt this business
Oh,
in
yeah.
so many ways.
Oh, yeah.
So many,
Yes,
you know.
of course. And of course, the whole Pornhub thing with MasterCard and Visa, that was
Mm-hmm.
just so damaging. And it could have been avoided.
Yeah, yeah, and look, if I had a time machine, that'd be one of the things I would do. Maybe go back and encourage somebody else to buy
Yeah,
Pornhub. But
right.
you know, knowing that bell can't be unrung, I think people did what they thought was right at the time. No,
Yeah,
like I said, nobody wants to be the only one doing it because that just means you're out of business. And when the free
right.
sites refuse to, comply, I
Hmm.
mean, and even now, if Pornhub complies, like they're doing in Louisiana, they're the people who went to Pornhub and got, hey, I need your ID, they just went to a different tube site.
Sure.
So until we can all agree on something, and like you said, very difficult at the best of times, we definitely are in a moment where we need to find a way to reward the people who do the right thing.
Right.
And the right thing meaning, the thing that both preserves their businesses and the lack of access to minors. I think that, we really have to think hard about what's gonna work as opposed to
Absolutely.
what these legislators are doing.
Well, along the lines of all this, I had an interview a few days ago with Todd Spates of Yanks Cash, and I asked him. He has a book coming out, by the way. It's going to be very interesting, and he said the biggest problem with our industry is a lack of leadership. One thing he said was he never sees the 3 or 4 major tube sites sitting on a panel, the CEOs of those sites, and talking and taking questions. And I went, you're right. I haven't either. You barely see any of the top management at shows. And that's just not right, because those are the guys that are really raking in the bucks. And they should be more responsible to what's happening in our industry, because a lot of the negative stuff that's going on is being targeted right at them.
It's very true. And I'm sure that's part of the reason they're not showing up in public.
Yeah.
I would love it if the major, the decision makers at these large companies did see themselves as more part of our industry, because whether we like it or not, they are. And I absolutely encourage, if you need a panel, FSC is happy to organize it. But I really do think having those folks understand their place in this industry and feel a part of it, feel responsible for it because they are.
Right.
And then work with the rest of the industry to make things better.
Right.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah. Well, OnlyFans is another one. Obviously, they're all of a sudden the biggest concern in our industry. And there are other huge companies that make a ton of money. So, yeah, you guys should organize something. In fact, I suggested to Todd, I said, FSC should do something like that. One comment he had was, yeah, FSC is great, but the only problem is FSC relies on sponsorship money. And
that's not the problem.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't think so either. I acknowledged what he said, but yeah, I mean,
no, it makes sense. You don't want to piss off the people who are paying your bills.
Right.
But I can tell you that OnlyFans isn't a member, so I'm not worried about pissing them off. I think the biggest problem with FSC.
They're not a member. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, they are not interested, evidently. We've approached them a number of times.
Sure.
And would still welcome their membership now.
Yeah.
However, I think that there's also a misconception that FSC has any particular power. I can't make anybody show up to a panel or...
No, you can't drag and get them dragging and screaming there, right?
No. Although I would try, and I promise you that I
Yes,
will give
I
it a
know
shot.
you would, Alison. I know you would. I know you. Yes, you most certainly would. So what are the other initiatives that you care about the most?
So I have been doing my, 2023 goals with my team, which I used to do in the fall, but it turns out planning for all these trade shows, a lot of work. So we're finally
it's pretty
tackling
crazy.
everything now. Definitely banking discrimination, definitely AVS. We're also kind of looking at how to capitalize on kind of like I said, the industry is actually run really well, but we need a way to demonstrate that and to get credit for it. So working on industry standards that are then verified.
Right.
And so when, let's call it a good housekeeping seal. If a website has this seal, that they are, compliant with all all the models have been age verified.
Oh, I like that.
Everything on the website is consensual.
Hmm.
There is an adjudication process if there, are allegations that something isn't consensual.
Mm-hmm.
All these sorts of different standards that we're just starting to kind of sketch out.
I love it.
Although I'm sure we all have it in our pocket, what they should be, but
Right.
actually putting it down, putting in place a mechanism to verify it and to sort of mediate issues, that is a big initiative this
Right.
year. Because we think that, when you can prove that you are a good citizen, it will be easier to get other people to treat you like one.
That's a fantastic idea.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I love it. So, FSC is an organization that is sometimes taken for granted by the industry. That's actually an understatement. You know, I know over the years when you ask people about FSC, you get a lot of shrugs of the shoulders, and it's like, yeah, but what do they really do? And so, I know you meet a fair number of people who are in the industry but aren't members. Now, when you talk to them, what's your 60-second elevator pitch to join up?
Well, I don't know if I have even 60 seconds. I try not to talk that long, but here's what I will say. I was in their shoes. I didn't know what FSC did or why I should give it money. One of the first things I did when I took over kink.com was cut our FSC donations by 3/4. And that is why my goal is not only to get things done for the industry, but to actually let you know what we're up to.
Yeah.
It's important that we are fighting for banking fairness. It's important that we are trying to influence the way that AVS gets implemented. It's important that we are actually pushing forward and trying to get the industry credit for all the good things it does. And we have to involve our members. We
Right.
have not done a really great job of doing that. And so we've been able to accomplish a lot since I got on board. And I'm really excited about what our plans are for 2023. And so I'd love your membership, because I think you can be involved in making your own business more profitable and
Yes.
benefiting the industry as a whole. That's
Yes.
my pitch.
That's good. That's really good. I mean, everyone should be a member. I've always said that. I said that when I had pay sites. I say that now that I do B2B services like website brokering. And just because you're not a content provider or a pay site owner or a tube site owner, it's equally important that you're a member of FSC, because FSC is doing things to try to not only help the industry, but really save the industry. Isn't that right?
It's been a rough year or two. I mean,
Yes.
we've faced our challenges in the last 20 years, but honestly, I have not seen this level of attack from organizations that are just trying to get rid of porn,
Right.
from really troubling culture war, right wing and extreme left wing. There
Yeah.
are really frightening people who call themselves feminists who are trying to
Yeah.
destroy our rights as well. And so being under attack from all sides,
Yeah.
it's a unique, at least in my lifetime, situation. I know that things were definitely much, much worse before I got into the business, and we are standing on the shoulders of real giants. And we're facing our own really, really dangerous moment right now.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in the industry over 20 years myself. I don't remember an attack level that's been turned up this high. And it almost seems like, in fact, I'm sure of it, that the Republicans are competing to see who can try to screw us harder.
It does seem like that, like they have a bet. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every day I open up XBiz, why not? And there's another article about somebody who's trying to screw us over, somebody who's passing a very onerous age verification law, somebody who's trying to ban porn, somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
trying to get rid of LGBT books,
Oh
and
my
somebody
gosh.
who's trying to make being LGBT or being in porn illegal. It's just
Oh yeah.
freaking insane.
We created last year an action center, and the software that powers it, I get legislative alerts when things
Right.
that
Right.
I have certain keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of this year, it's been an avalanche
I know.
of
I get
new
those.
bills.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and they're nuttier than ever before. I mean, there are West Virginia just trying to ban all adult establishments. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a half dozen, probably more, of bills that are trying to make drag shows, like anywhere that you have a drag show now, it's an adult establishment, so it needs to be treated
Right.
basically like a strip club. I mean, these
Right.
people are really, really bonkers.
Totally. And if you extend that, if you take that to the next level, the next thing they're going to go after is all porn.
Absolutely. The biggest non-legislative enemy of this industry is Nicosi, the former morality and media folks,
Oh
who
yeah,
are funded,
those
in
fuckers.
the millions and millions, and they've got an entire legal center doing lawsuits,
Mm-hmm.
claiming that Pornhub are traffickers.
Yep.
They are winning the media war. They're out there spreading
Mm-hmm.
lies,
Yep.
and we're trying to fight back. We're
Yeah.
doing our best.
Well, and it doesn't
It
seem
does
like
take money.
it doesn't seem like any of the mainstream media are fact checking this stuff.
Very, very few. You know,
Right.
it's really disappointing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned Mike Stabile.
Yes.
He's incredible, and he is out there. He is not hard to find.
Yes, he
He's
is.
essentially, in many ways, the spokesperson for our industry, and he
Right.
can absolutely fact check all of these lies. And they at this point, they're avoiding it. They don't want to.
Right. But as great as Mike is, and he's phenomenal, and he's already done an interview on this podcast, and I plan to have him back because this thing's moving very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what Mike has to say and what the mainstream media have to say, people are going to believe the mainstream media.
Oh yeah, no, I mean we don't have the 1% of the reach of people who are ideologically opposed to us. I mean, I think it's clear that Nick Kristof doesn't like porn.
Gee, do you
You know,
think?
it's not about they find these stories, they make them up, whatever it is they're doing with the lies they spread about our industry,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coming from a perspective that they think that most people assume. Yeah, porn's bad.
Yeah.
It's a basic assumption, and
Mm-hmm.
part of what we try to do is at least complicate, if not completely, turn it on its head. Like, well, is it? I mean, how is it
Mm-hmm.
bad? Well,
Yeah.
the studies you're using are actually really not scientifically rigorous. Look at
Yeah,
these studies. I mean,
they're all flawed. They're all flawed.
right?
I mean,
And frankly, there aren't a lot
you
of great
can
studies,
do
but there are good ones.
yeah, but you can do a study about anything, okay?
Hmm.
And come up with a conclusion that porn is the worst thing in the world.
Many people have.
Yes, I know. There are tons of them out there, and you look at them and you're like, huh?
Oh yeah, and they surveyed 12 people who they found at a Walmart, and these
Mm-hmm.
people said porn isn't great. I mean, it's that level of scientific rigor,
Yes, yes. In the Bible Belt, they did that.
right?
When Christoph published his articles, I canceled my subscription to the New York Times.
Yeah,
I vote with my money, and those people. I'm surprised New York Times even let it happen. I could see the New York Post, okay. I could see the
sure.
Washington Examiner, but the New York
Yeah,
Times?
those.
I used to have
Yeah.
some
No,
respect for them.
it's so disappointing, and there are a few mainstream journalists who I think are doing right, not just covering us, positively, but actually covering us fairly. I
Yes.
think that, you've got Sam Cole at Vice, Melissa Jira
Hmm.
Grant, a handful who actually took the time to understand the issues,
Right.
but they are the absolute exception, not the
Oh,
rule.
yeah, that's probably 1% or less.
Easily.
Yeah.
I
So,
know, it's so easy to get bummed.
well, we get bummed, but I think we're all in a fighting stance. And I don't think anybody's really given up the ship yet. You know what I mean?
I really hope not. And to be honest, so after XBiz, or at the very end of XBiz, we had our FSC summit, and
Mm-hmm.
that was like a full day of panels that we did. And I was exhausted. You go to AVN,
I bet.
Internext, XBiz, and
As was
me.
I.
So I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make it? And then that day, I have just been energized incredibly by that experience because people were
Wow.
so engaged. They're so ready for this fight. They
Yes. Yes.
really are excited to defend this industry and fight back against this. And it's
Yeah.
kind of given me new excitement and purpose in my job, to be honest. It was really great to see.
That's fantastic. Yeah, the XBiz show was really great. I was really pleasantly surprised because the last time I was there 3 years ago, it was rather small, and
Mm.
Alec and Mo have really built that thing up, and it was awesome. And then the award show was fantastic. Thanks for beating me for Community Figure of the Year. I do appreciate that very much. Alison, you certainly deserved it. What can I say? That was, I don't know if I told you, that was my first nomination ever. So it was very
Oh my
special.
gosh.
Yeah, I know, all these years in the industry. I guess I'm a cool kid now. But anyway, I never wanted to be a cool kid. But yeah, that was a really nice event, and I couldn't be happier for you. And I mean that sincerely. Somebody had to beat me, and I knew I knew I wasn't going to win the thing. I
Well,
was
you
up
know
against. I
what?
mean, the people I was up against. You,
Those
Leia.
people I couldn't believe.
Well, I mean, look at the list of the nominees. It was insane. And I looked at it and I
Exactly.
went,
I
well, it'll
figured
be a
no way.
nice experience. I'm not going to win, but one of my friends, because all of you are my friends, all the other people that were nominated, I know well and are
Yeah.
friends. And I was like, oh, this is just going to be fantastic. And thank you very much to the industry for nominating me. So I was going to say thank you
You've
to the
got my
Academy.
vote next time.
Okay, I was going to say thank you to the Academy, but anyway. Let's fast forward to the end of your time when you finally are finished at FSC. What do you hope to have achieved for the organization and for the industry?
I haven't even imagined that day. So
Hmm.
you're doing this in real time with me.
Yeah,
But I would love it if I could at least follow the campsite rule. You leave it better than you found it.
I think you already
That
have.
day, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That day will be fulfilling to me if people in our industry can get a bank account and not have it closed on them with no warning and no reason.
Hmm.
If there are folks who come into our industry and know exactly what they're supposed to do to comply with all the rules and regulations and do everything well, and that's been established and it's easy for them to do, and they are able to have extremely successful businesses without government harassment,
Amen.
that would be incredible.
Hmm.
I hope that when I leave, performers are even more empowered and treated even better and really appreciated for the incredible work they do, for how they've
Hmm.
created all of our livelihoods.
Yeah.
And there's a little piece of me that's hoping that I'll have been able to bring the sex toy folks a little bit into the fold
Yeah.
and kind of, make some solidarity and work with them a little bit more because I think we're all in this together. That'd be amazing.
I agree. And the novelty industry and the content industry, really, there's a lot of crossover. And we should work more together, shouldn't we?
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually why I was at ANME this year, because we are starting a group for the pleasure products industry
Oh,
that
that's
is
neat.
for them. They
Mm-hmm.
get to, decide. It's being founded right now, really, really early talks.
That's neat.
And if anyone's in pleasure products and wants to get involved, please reach out, because
Yeah.
I think we have a lot in common that I think a lot of times the pleasure products folks are like, we're not porn, we're not, but everybody else outside, they all think you're exactly like the pornographers.
Yeah.
And we all need to fight for acceptance and for, basic rights. Let's do it together.
Absolutely. Well, let me know if I can be of any help, because I've got some contacts in that space. I was interviewed on one podcast for the pleasure products industry, and I get the impression that they're pretty heavy duty people. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
get the impression you're not even close to being done there. Do I kind of get the impression that you're not going to leave until you feel like your work is done?
Oh yeah, no, I've got a lot of work to do. I'm in this to win this, for sure.
That's fantastic. Listening to you gives me a lot more confidence about the future of the industry, Alison. It really does.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment.
Well, it comes from the heart. Well, Alison, I'd like to thank you for being our guest today on Adult Site Broker Talk, and I hope we'll get a chance to do this again soon.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, and I look forward to it.
Me too. My broker tip today is part 2 of how to buy a site. Last week we discussed first deciding the type of site you want to buy and then establishing what your budget is. Next, it's time to look for your new website. So where do you look? Well, Adult Site Broker is a great place to start. We always have a nice variety of website and non-website properties for sale, but if there's a particular type of site you want, we can also act as your buyer's broker to help you find just the right site. Other places to look are boards like xbiz.net and gfy.com, but to be completely frank, unless what you're looking for is a really low-end property, you're probably not going to find what you're looking for there. Of course, you could contact site owners yourself, but take it from someone who does it for a living. It's a major hassle, and it can be really hard to even find out who owns a site. Almost all adult sites use Whois Privacy from their domain registrar. So when you send them an email, it will be to an anonymous address, and in most cases, the emails aren't returned. We have a huge database of sellers and generally know who owns what. And if it's a website of note, if we don't know who owns it, we can always find out. We'll talk about this subject more next week. And next week, we'll be speaking with Ashton Inger from Kuru and Feel Robotics. And that's it for this week's Adult Site Broker Talk. I'd once again like to thank my guest, Alison Boden. Talk to you again next week on Adult Site Broker Talk. I'm Bruce Friedman.